friends, how are you all doing? Today is Friday, July 29th, and I am back for my stitching update. It has been 2 weeks since my last one, so I hope you've all been well. You've been stitching and making, creating all of the things. If you're brand new to my channel, welcome. My name is Olivia, and this is Pumpkin Hollow Quilts. This is a video podcast slash vlog where I talk about my cross stitching as well as my quilting. However, if quilting is not something you're interested in seeing or hearing about, I show it a little bit later on in the video and I let you know in plenty of time that they'll be making their appearance so that way you can go on to the next Flosstube video. And if you are a returning subscriber, welcome back. So how have you guys all been? Hope you've had a great 2 weeks since we last sat down to chat. I do want to start off the video by saying a great big thank you to each and every one of you who watched my previous video. I can't begin to tell you how much it means to me that so many of you guys take a little bit of time out of your day to hang out and watch my videos. So thank you so very, very much. I also really enjoyed reading through all of the comments. I'm still working my way through the comments. The last 2 weeks, they were a little challenging, and I kind of found myself just with not really a lot of extra time to, sit down and go through and read the comments and the questions and things like that. There was a lot going on last week. By the time the end of the week came, I definitely was in some poor spirits. So I spent the weekend sewing, and when I wasn't sewing, I was stitching. So, but I did. I really do appreciate you guys leaving me the comments and everything. I don't want you to think that I don't, or that I was ignoring or any of that. It just, these past 2 weeks they were challenging. So I think in today's video, I'm just gonna start right off with some questions. The first question I got is about this Amish Pie Safe. It made its first appearance in my last video, and I don't really remember if I gave too much of the details about it, but it is called the Amish Primitive Country Pie Safe, and I purchased it from an online shop called Antique Farmhouse. And I do know currently it is out of stock. However, it does do that off and on. So I have been wanting it for about a year. And there was a couple of different times where I was like, I'm gonna go get it, and then it was out of stock. So there was a couple of times, even in the past year, when it would go in and out of stock. They are all handmade, so I know eventually it will come back into stock. I know there's a couple other places I did see it also available for sale. However, the website where I purchased it, and I will put a link to it down below in the description box, they had free shipping, and I felt like price-wise they were way more reasonable. So, but yes, I will link it down below. I love it. I'm really looking forward to decorating it as the seasons come. I've already got some plans, and I can't wait. The next question is, where do I buy my cross-stitch supplies? So when I do purchase cross-stitch supplies, I kind of get them all over the place. Probably the number one would be 1-2-3 Stitch, and then after that it would be possibly my local LNS, which is Acorns and Threads up in Portland. And then Etsy is another place where I might purchase some. Hobby House Needleworks. There's like so many different ones. I basically, when I think about buying something, I definitely do a lot of window shopping before I make that final decision. So I just kind of get all of my supplies from just kind of all over the place. The next question is, where did I get the frame for Sir Walter? And if you watched my last video or you've been following me on Instagram or Facebook, I recently showed my finish of Sir Walter. He is in the oval antique frame, and I got him at an estate sale. It was just kind of like the find of the century. I have seen similar styles of those frames, but they've been more rectangular or square. That was the first time that I had seen one where it was oval. It was meant as a picture frame. I saw one of the questions was, did it have a mirror in it? And it did not. When I purchased it, it very much was a antique frame. It had the person who had owned the house that had passed away. It must have been her parents or his parents. it was their wedding picture, and it was set like in the 1920s. And that is what the frame was, I believe, originally purchased for, was to put that wedding photo in there. I did put the wedding photo back. So the wedding photo is behind Sir Walter inside the, I kind of put them all together. So that way, if he ends up in a Goodwill or a garage sale or an antique shop, if someone decides to take it out, they're gonna also see the original photograph that was in there as well. But I did get it at an estate sale. So that's a great place to kind of find some of those frames, are the estate sales. So if you ever see one in your area, I definitely would recommend just popping in and seeing what they've got, because you just never know what you're gonna find. And as soon as I came around the corner and I saw it sitting there on the hope chest, I just had to have it, because I knew exactly what I wanted to put in that frame. I do want to say a thank you, though, for all of your kind comments in regards to Sir Walter and Christmas Garden. Though both of those finishes are probably my favorites of the year. Both of them mean a lot to me. So thank you so very much for all of your kind comments. And then I was asked, what is my current whip count at in the mocking basket of whips? So at the beginning of the year, I talked about what was in the whip basket. And usually at the beginning of the year, that's when I would get it out and I would say, this is what's in the mocking basket of whips. And I can say I have 3 outstanding. So the 3 are Autumn on Lazy Bear Mountain, Coming to America, Women of the Mayflower, and Celtic Autumn. And then I also have my regular rotation, which everything that is in my current rotation, I will be showing you today, because I've worked on the 4 of them. So I've definitely whittled a lot of it down. My ultimate goal is to only have current projects in my rotation. No more whips, no more whip baskets, just current rotation. So in today's video, I do not have any finishes to show. The last couple of videos, I feel like I've been cranking those finishes out, but I also have been working on some of that stuff for a while. So this video is just going to have progress. And one thing I forgot to write down in my questions, and then I just realized, was I'd had several of you guys ask what large sampler I am going to be working on next. And when will I start it, or what is like the next, what am I going to pull next in my stitching rotation? So I've been pretty content to just kind of work on things until I get them finished. And I have 4 projects that I have been working on. One of them I know I will finish between now and my next video, so that will leave me with 3 things that I might just work on just for a little while. But I think I have decided on the Noel sampler by With Thy Needle and Thread. Usually what happens is when I get close to being finished with something, I will go through my kitted projects and kind of look at each one, find one that kind of calls loudly to me, and that one definitely did. I've had that one kitted for a while. And so I will set it to the front of all the kitted projects. So anytime I'm going in and out of the dungeon, I see it and I can think about it a little bit. So far, I think that might be the one that I will start next at some point. I'm not sure exactly when I will. And then in October, I will be starting a humongous sampler with Yvette for her birthday, which I am looking forward to starting that one too. And usually when I'm working on a big sampler, I try to think of a relative that I will be stitching it for. And just yesterday, I decided on which relatives it will be. So it will be another set of great-grandparents, and this one will be on the Leinbach side of the family, which is my maiden name. So they are my grandfather's parents, and so I will be stitching that particular sampler for them. When it gets a little bit closer, I will talk a little bit more about it then. So current rotation has been Thankful, Grateful, Blessed by Brenda Gervais of With Thy Needle and Thread. So in this particular one, I showed it in my last video, and I talked about the outside border and how very light it was, and I was considering taking all of the stitching out or maybe leaving it and then just finding a nice dark frame to frame it in. A lot of you guys had great suggestions, or you've stitched it and you let me know kind of what you did. What seemed to be the unanimous idea was just to keep going. And when I go to frame it with a very dark frame, that helps that outside border stitching pop out. So I think I'm going to go ahead and stay the course and see if that is indeed the right, like if that is the right way to go. I have a feeling it will be, just because, especially in working on Christmas Garden and seeing how the border needed that extra little help of me shrinking the frame closer to it. I feel like this one might be the same way. So we'll see, but I'm going to go ahead and stay the course. So in my last video, this one was kind of in the middle of my 5-day rotation, and so after I did the video, I worked on it for 2 more days and basically just focused on filling in the ginormous house. And I'm really hoping that I have enough thread to make it all the way through, because I used a piece of, well, it was the thread that's called for, I used it in Olga's stocking. And so when I finished Olga's stocking, I just put it right in this. And, it was almost a full skein hunk of floss. It was almost a full thing of it, where it had the 6 yards. But it's getting down there. I think it's going to be really close. But I am stitching this on a piece of 36 count Legacy by Picture This Plus with, I believe, various threads, 1/2. And by various, it means that I've just swapped out a couple of threads for something else. And I think it was the silk. This one, I believe, had 2 pieces of silk that you were supposed to buy for it, and I swapped them out for DMC. So it's coming along marvelously, and I believe in these next 2 weeks it comes back into the rotation again, so I'm looking forward to it. And then Boo Crew by the Fat Quarter Shop. So this was their mystery stitch along, which started on July 5th, and I believe the final clue was released on Tuesday, this past Tuesday. I started working on mine on Wednesday after I finished my Hawkhorn Hollow block. So I have been working on this a little bit on Wednesday and then Thursday. So this is where I am. So I don't have too far to go. I just got to finish the cat, and then the cat is on a broom, and then I got to finish the W, and then this will be done. And I love it, love it, love it. So I'm stitching this on a piece of 36 count Shrekies Tan by Needle Bling Designs, 1/2, with the called for Classic Colorworks. And I love it. And in person, the linen is very much green and not tan like it is showing up right now. And I realize it's on a big giant piece, so the plan is to, when I get it done, I will cut it off of here and turn it into a drum, and then I will be able to use this for something else. And I ended up buying this on a whim because I was looking for, I believe this was in 2020, and I was just looking for linen, 36 count linen to add to my stash, and I saw this for sale on Fire Poppies, and I ended up picking it up from them. And then when it came, I was like, whoa, this is way too green, but it actually looks really good for Halloween pieces. So I really do love it. This was a lot of fun to stitch. It goes really, really fast. So if you're, if you're on the fence about starting it and not wanting to get it done in time for Halloween, or just not wanting it to be too big of a project, it really is not. It really goes really, really fast, and I really enjoyed stitching it. The patterns are free, and as far as I know, they will always be available. So I will put a link to. I'll put a link to the Fat Quarter Shop's website where those clues are, because you actually go into their online shop and then you can download the free PDFs from there. So I will put a link there. This was the first time I've participated in a stitch along that has been hosted by the Fat Quarter Shop, and it was a lot of fun. I learned a lot. about, you know, making sure that I find the correct place, because I thought all the clues were released in the Jolly Jabber, but it was actually where I found them was on the website. So if I go and participate again in something else, I will definitely know to check the website first. And then American Farmhouse by the Scarlett House. So this one was one that was in the Mocking Basket of Whips, and I recently took it out and decided to go ahead and work on it. The reason why it had been in the Mocking Basket of Whips was because at some point in 2019 I had worked on it, and I had made a mistake. Now, what I realize now is that back in 2019, I was still I had been cross stitching for a couple of years at that point, or back into cross stitching for a couple of years at that point, but I'd only worked on larger counts. I'd worked mainly on 28 and 32 count. I had never really worked on anything that was a 36 count. I did have my Hawk-Run Hollow pieces on their 40 counts, and I had worked on those, but even that I had struggled on. I mean, I had went from 28 count to 40 count, so that was like night and day. And that is why they had sat in their project bags for as long as they did. And then this one, I fell in love with it when it was released. And I kitted it up. I think I bought it as a kit. I got it on a piece of 36 count ale with the Called for Weeks dye works. It came. The linen was really super dark, and I had never worked on anything dark before. And I also, when it come to the higher counts, I was new at working on them, so I definitely struggled. So I made a lot of mistakes. It ended up put in and out of timeout until finally I just was like, no way. And I just threw it in a project bag and forgot about it. Every time I would see somebody working on theirs and finishing it, I absolutely loved it, and I would think about it, and then, you know, I would just remember all, you know, the struggle I had had with it. Well, now all I work on is 36 and 40 count, and so I thought, well, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to work on it. And I was sort of dreading it because I thought I made a mistake somewhere and I need to find it and I fix it. I couldn't find where a mistake was, so I just kept going, and I was able to finish the barn. And here it is. So I got the barn done. I dropped down and I worked on the flowers, and then I dropped down and began working on the grass. So I will work on the grass until I come all the way over here, and then I will go up and, well, kind of off and on, I'll go up and work on the 2 quilt blocks that are up above. So it went way easier. I really enjoyed it, and I hope it continues to be a really fun stitch. So I'm stitching it on a piece of 36 count ale by Picture This Plus, which I really wish that I could get my hands on a piece of 36 count ale, because I absolutely love it. I don't know that 2019 Olivia would have said that, but 2022 Olivia loves it. But I'm stitching it with the Called for Weeks dye works 1/2. So I can't wait to get this done. I hope I'm able to get it done by the end of summer. This will be one that probably will hang up year round because I just really love it. So that one I will be getting back to over these next 2 weeks. And next up is Autumn at Hawk-Run Hollow by Carriage House Samplings. So in my last video, I was working on this block right here, and I was able to finish it over these past 2 weeks. So I went ahead and I pulled the colors for the next block, which is this big turkey here. I am eliminating the Halloween blocks, and I'm just moving these 2 up in their place, so mine's going to be a little bit shorter. So I'll be working on the Tom Turkey, which I cannot wait to start working on. And here is my progress. So I think it looks really, really good. I absolutely love it so very much. This is the block that I finished. Now I did make some color changes, which I will talk about here in a second. But I love it, love it. So over last weekend, we went to a flea market that was called Junk Refunk, and I went there hoping to find a frame for this piece. However, I didn't see any frames. I did get a few other things, which are just like little like decorative items. So I was a little bit disappointed that I was not able to find a frame, but I will keep looking because I definitely see this in a wooden frame, and just sort of one that looks like it's been around for a couple hundred years in a musty old barn. So can't wait to get back to that one. Again, I went ahead and I pulled all the colors for the turkey and just for the whole block in general, and I cannot wait to start working on it. Before I forget, I am stitching Autumn at Hawthorne Hollow on a piece of 40 count Vintage Country Mocha with various DMC 1/2. Now, since I have completed the block, I will talk about some of the colors that I swapped out, I guess. The first one, and probably the big one, is the house. I stitched it with DMC 501, and that particular color is used up here on these two birds. I basically was just trying to find a way to pull that color down to that block. It's not used too much in the whole sampler. I think in the final block, which is down here, one of the little people, their shirt is the 501. So I will probably be changing that to something else. But I was trying to help my blue here just kind of like make it look like it all kind of went together. So, and I also love a tealy vintage colonial teal looking house. The next thing is in the cats. So the cats are kind of striped. So it calls for DMC 310, and then the gray I used was DMC 844. Let me get this closer so you can see. And then of course they have weird creepy eyes. No matter how hard I tried, I couldn't get their eyes to not look so creepy. And then the pumpkin here. So in the pattern, the pumpkin is kind of stripy. I decided I wanted mine to just be one solid color, and I used DMC 3826. One last change that I made was in the border. So the border I stitched with DMC 3781. And the reason why I did that, and I don't think I've talked about this for a while, was because when I started working on this sampler, I started up here with this block, and I stitched it with the DMC 3771 that I would have had in my stash at that time. And then a little while later, I worked on this block. I do not think they were done at the same time. I definitely think there was a little bit of a time span in between the two of them. And this one I stitched with a piece of DMC 3771, and then by the time I got to this block, the color had changed to something that was much darker. So I noticed it when I got to this block, and I thought, well, what am I going to do, because I have this block where the border is going to be a totally different color, and everything else is going to be the dark border that it is supposed to be stitched with. So I kind of searched through my DMC, and I found the 3781, which looked like this. So I have just been rotating them. So I think when I got to this border, I used it, this one, and then this one. So this one down here, I will use the 3781, and this one here, I will use the 3771. I hope that makes sense. But yeah, definitely there was a, and see, the thing is that particular color is one that I have used a lot, the DMC 3771. I've used it a lot because I was doing hand embroidery, and that's why I quit working on this, was so that I could go work on my the Salem Witches Quilt Guild by Crab Apple Hill Studios, and I'll show it when I show all my Halloween quilts in October. But that one called for a ton of that brown color, so I went through a lot of it. So I know it wasn't it wasn't like I had just pulled the wrong colors. It was that the dye lot had changed, or I had got a dye lot that was a little bit lighter, or who knows, but I didn't catch it at the time until I got to a few blocks in, and then I just happened to look up and I saw that there was definitely a different color. And again, it was a color, I mean, I've used a ton of that particular color, and just about in everything I've stitched, if it calls for like a dark brown, that is usually my go-to DMC dark brown. It's like a brownish black, and I've used a crazy amount of it. That and DMC 310, I've used a ton of it. So I was able to just kind of go in and just kind of fudge it, and now it just looks like every other block is, I did it on purpose, so that's good. So my plan, I think, is to work on this one over the next 2 weeks. I'm not sure. I'll have to look at my book of days, but I'm pretty positive the way, because I've been working on Boo Crew, and that one kind of bumped a few things around, and I think that has my rotation kind of kittywampus, and I think that all 4 of the things I've shown I will work on over these next 2 weeks. Okay, so I thought I would grab Freddie really, really quick. I know a lot of you guys like to see him. He went and got a haircut this past week, so he looks absolutely adorable. And of course, he's not going to sit still very long for me to... It would be nice if he would just sit here for a few minutes so that you guys could see how adorable he is, but he always wants down immediately. Now, when I'm not recording the video, he will let me hold him all day long. So I don't know what that's about. Huh. Cute. Also, I realized I had to redo the part where I'm showing my Autumn at Hawk Run Hollow, and I might have forgot to mention what I'm stitching it on, but I am stitching it on a piece of 40 count Vintage Country Mocha with various DMCs 1/2. So in my last video, I did have a giveaway, and thank you so much to everyone that played along. The question that I asked was, what are you currently working on? And I really enjoyed reading through the variety of projects that everybody is working on, both cross-stitching and quilting. If I call your name, what you will need to do is email me your address, and I will put my contact information down below. The first winner is for the Oh Dear cross stitch pattern, and that is Elizabeth Setzler. It's Setzler. Number 2 was for this cut press sew, and the winner is Sally Diem. It's Diehm. Number 3 was for the Vintage Housewives, and that is Daniela Drezen. It's Drecsan. And I'll scroll these names. Number 4 is for the sleigh ride cross stitch, and that is Alyssa Reitveld. Ritbeld. And then number 5 is the Bloom Where You're Planted, and the winner is Carol Ann Brake. So congratulations to all the winners. I'm sorry if I butchered your name, but again, if you can get a hold of me via email, and I'll put my contact information down below, I can get those out in the mail to you soon. So this video also has a giveaway, and what you need to do is make sure that you are a subscriber, like the video, and answer the question down below. There are 5 prizes up for grabs, and so you will answer the question, and then somewhere in your answer you will need to put which ones you are interested in, 1 through 5, because that is the way I search for the winners. The first one is for Christmas Garden by Blackbird Designs. So this was my pattern that I used to stitch my Christmas garden, and it was given to me from another cross stitcher who had stitched Christmas garden as well. So it is a used pattern, but it is still in great condition. So this is number 1. Number 2 is Autumn Spice by It's So Emma. Number 3 is Tea Time by It's So Emma. Number 4 is Amaryllis Quilt Pattern, also by It's So Emma. And number 5 is Poinsettias, also by It's So Emma. So if you are interested in winning any of those, you will need to answer the question down below. And the question that you will need to answer is, what is your state flower? So when I first started doing giveaways, this was one of the very first questions that I ever asked. And I really enjoyed reading through everybody's answers. Everyone had a really great time, you know, because they had to go look at what it was and then answer it. And so it was a lot of fun. And I really enjoyed reading through all of those comments. I am not going to tell you what Oregon's is because you need to go look if you are from Oregon. So answer the question down below, what is your state flower? And in my next video, I will announce the winners. And thank you so much for playing. I really do appreciate it so very much. Well, my friends, that brings me to the end of the cross-stitching portion of the video. I am going to start talking about quilting next, so if that's not something you're interested in seeing or hearing, this is a great stopping off point. I will be back in 2 weeks. Anything that I have talked about, shown, I will list it down below in the description box, just in case I forgot. You know, sometimes I get to talking and I forget to talk about thread. I forget to talk about what I'm stitching it on, or just even the name sometimes, or the designer. So all of that information I always do list down below. Hope you guys have a great 2 weeks. But now I'm going to start talking about quilting. Okay, let's talk about quilts. The past 2 weeks I feel like have been very productive. And the only reason why is because it has been super hot outside, and so I can't really do any long arm quilting. Not doing any gardening because it's way too hot. So I basically hang out indoors like a mole. Anyway, I have been putting project bags into the Etsy shop, and I do have more that I'm going to be adding in, but for the most part, when I can, I've been squeezing in a lot of my own personal quilting. The quilt hanging behind me is the Temecula album quilt by Temecula Quilt Company. And I do not believe you can get it as a pattern. I know you can get the kit sometimes on the secondary market, but it was a block of the month. I'm not sure what year it came out. I was gifted the quilt kit and I absolutely love it. It's one of my most favorite quilts ever. I just think it's just so bright and fun. And when I was putting the quilt together, I knew that it would be the perfect quilt to hang during this time of the year. I have had it hanging in the spring, but that's just because I had finished it. But going forward, I think it'll be a quilt that will hang up in the later half of the summer. But I really, really love it. And it makes me so happy whenever it's hanging and I walk into this room and I see it. It's so wonderful. But progress on other quilts. So last time I showed the progress on my Scrappy Stars quilt. A lot of you guys wanted to know where you could get the pattern. There is not a pattern. This started off as a block exchange with 3 of my friends. So it was Carol, Yvette, and Christy at Crosshatched Quilts. So we swapped quilt blocks. So I have 3 blocks in what I've put together that are made by my friends. And then I've just been assembling quilt blocks for it. Both Yvette and Carol have finished their quilts, and I am bringing up the caboose. But what my plan is to do is basically every 2 weeks when I make my video, I have to have a row sewn together. So I have to make 9 blocks over the 2 weeks in between my videos. So it's really good motivation. So my quilt will be 9 blocks across and 9 rows down. And over these past 2 weeks, I was able to put a row together. And I did this top one. So these are all my scrappy blocks. And I love how this quilt is turning out. It looks so good. And I cannot wait to get it done. So, I don't think I ever said, I know I started to talk about it, but there is not a pattern for this particular quilt. But this is, I know there are a lot of designers out there who have designed this exact same block. I started out using the star block out of, I think it was a Farm Girl Vintage by Lori Holt. And then I switched over because one of the reproduction quilt groups I belong to, the designer had this particular block, and it was just easier to have that printed piece of paper in front of me than the book. So I switched over and I started using her Scrappy Stars block, which finishes the same exact size, 6.5. And so that is what I have been using. But I know Diarrhea of a Quilter also has this particular block on her blog, and you could probably go look for it there. I'm trying to remember what the designer calls her Facebook group. Her name is Kathleen Tracy. So I think if you look for like Kathleen Tracy, it might be quilts or something like that. If I can, I will put, I don't know that I can link the group because you have to join it, but if I remember, I will go in and I will put the name of the Facebook group. And then she also has a lot of other patterns in the files as well. And then every once in a while she will do like some sort of a challenge or something like that. And this was one from a couple of years ago, and she had started to get back to assembling hers, and that's how I found out about this particular quilt block. And again, I just like having it because it's a single sheet of paper, or basically all I needed to know was the cutting, the pieces of the cutting, and then I can just go in and assemble them. But it's nice for me just to sort of have it. It's attached to my magnet board, and then what I do is I will go and pull 5 either light dark or 4 dark light. It just kind of depends on which row it is. So it'll either have 5 where it's got the darker in the corner, or it'll have 4 light, and I just rotate them each row. But in the week, at the beginning of the week, I'll just go into my stash and I'll pull 5, and then the next week I'll pull 4, and then I assemble. So it's good motivation for me to get my quilt complete. And I've got 4 rows together and I've got 5 rows to go. So it'll probably still take me, you know, as I keep going the same way that I'm going, it'll probably take me a little while to have the quilt all the way done. So it'll probably be sometime into the fall, mid-fall before I get it done, which that's okay. And it's kind of nice because if I'm working with different fabrics for different quilts, I will just go and cut out what I need and then I set it aside. So that way I have different pieces of all the different quilts I'm working on. The next project I'm working on is Wendy Pickets, and it is by Lamb Farm Designs. I thought I could read backwards. I am making this quilt with my friend Retha. She already has hers pretty much all done. She just has to add borders. I, of course, am bringing up the caboose again. But I was able to go in and make some more blocks. So, and also while I'm cutting out the star blocks, I also cut out Wendy Picket blocks. So I made this one, and I made this, and this one, and that. So this fabric right here was for my Olga's stocking. And this one, and I made this. I really love this one. And this one here, and this one here, and this one, which this fabric right here, I didn't realize it, but it is part of the Civil War tribute fabric line that came out, and I only discovered it when I went to go cut my next Civil War tribute block. So I was able to get all of those done. So I have 16 of 41 blocks complete, and so this will be another one that sometime down the road, probably early, maybe fall, maybe I'll have it done. It's not a huge quilt, it's only 50.5 by 50.5, so it's just a nice lap size. So at some point I will have that done, and again, when I am pulling fabrics for my Scrappy Stars, I also cut Wendy Picket blocks. So I'm hoping that I will be able to get it done soon. I think it's going to be a really cool quilt when it's done, and all of the fabrics I am using are Civil War reproduction fabrics. And then the Civil War tribute quilt. So I was able to finish month 4, which it was a block representing the battles of Antietam and Sharpsburg. And here is the block. So I was really happy that I was able to get it done, get 1 month closer to a finish. So it had me make an 18-inch block and a 12-inch. So here is the 12-inch. And it was kind of put together the same way that you put the first month together. Just had one little extra triangle in it. But it's so pretty. Love it. Oh my gosh, I just love this one so much. I love the colors. So I would really like to get this one done. I mean, I don't want to hurry through it because there's still a long ways to go. But I do want to get back to it a lot sooner than I have previously. So the next one is the 5th month, and I think I have to make 4 12-inch blocks. So I would kind of like to cut them all out and then just kind of assemble them when I have the time, because that'll be one where it'll be a little tedious, just kind of repeating the same block in the same size over and over again. So I definitely want to make sure that I get them all cut out and then I just kind of spread it out. So hopefully in my next video, I'll at least have one done. That's kind of the goal I'm setting for myself. So in my last video, I showed a little bit of Happy Mail that I had gotten from Regina. And Regina was the one who sent me the Civil War Tribute Quilt Kit, my unicorn, never ever thought I would ever see again, let alone ever be able to put together quilt. And she had found some directions that went with it, and then she sent me some fabric and a kit. And the kit she sent me was called Leftovers 9-Patch Quilt. So after I finished that video, got everything cleaned up the next day, it might have even been that night while my video was sort of like waiting to go onto YouTube before I went to bed, I sat down and I started cutting the quilt out. And then over the weekend, and then I think into Monday, after I had finished doing some stuff, I completed the quilt. And I really wanted to get it quilted before this video, but then the heat wave struck. I mean, everything kind of came together, but if it wouldn't have been for our crazy high heat temperatures, I would have had this one put together, or all the way put together. But I have the quilt top to show you, and here it is. So it's a pretty big quilt, so I'm not going to be able to get it all in. But it just has some amazing fabrics, and I discovered that there were several pieces from the Civil War Medleys line, and the Civil War Medleys quilt came out after Civil War Tribute, so it was really cool to have those pieces in this quilt. So I love it. I cannot wait to get it quilted. It's just so absolutely gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. And I had a blast putting it together. The only thing I changed was I put a lighter border on it than what came with it. I just felt like it went a little bit better. And it looked a little bit more like the one that was on the cover, or on the picture. So I love, 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 love. Love it so very much. And again, I will quilt it as soon as the weather improves. I did get the backing fabric. So this is, well, the line is called Christmas Farmhouse by Kim Deal, but I just felt like this particular color looked really, really good with the quilt. So I picked up enough for the backing fabric from Thousands of Bolts. And that was really the only haul that I got. I just wanted to make sure that I could get that one quilted. And thousandsofbolts.com is a great place. It's very affordable to get, like backing, because this one needed 5 yards, I believe. And it's just very affordable. So that's all I did. I just kind of moved from one project to the other. I mean, those are all the ones I'm currently working on. So it was kind of fun to have like a rotation. So my plan for quilting is obviously to quilt the leftovers 9-patch quilt. And one thing is, this kit came from Chestnut Bay Quilting, and I didn't check. I should have went on and checked to see if they had the pattern still available. But their website, I mean, they're still there, because I did check to make sure that they were still in business, and they are. I looked at the front page of their website earlier today, so but I should go and see if they still have this, at least the pattern still available, because it is very beginner friendly. I mean, if you wanted to kind of dip your toe into quilting, this would definitely be the perfect quilt. It went together crazy fast, which I really love, because then I felt like I had a quilt victory instead of just all progress. But I really enjoyed working on it. It's really fun to kind of work on those quilts that are a little bit more easier. Well, for a beginner, it probably would be challenging, but for me, it's just kind of nice to work on one that's sort of like a palette cleanser, because I feel like I've been working on so many quilts with crazy tiny half square triangles, and this one was just nice because it was so big, and it was just really relaxing to put it together. So, but yeah, basically everything I showed, I'm going to continue working on. I think maybe between now and my next video, I will get my next block bonanza blocks. I am doing the block of the month through Homestead Hearth, and they've been sending them kind of at the beginning of the month. So I think between now and my next video, I should get the next group of blocks in. So hopefully I will be able to work on those, because I do want to keep up on it. Now that I've caught up, I want to stay caught up. But I'm anxious for that one to be done too, just because I think it's going to be amazing when it's done. So yeah, basically everything I showed minus the leftovers 9-patch quilt. I will continue working on my Scrappy Stars, on my Wendy pickets, and my block bonanza when it comes. And then of course I would really like to cut out and assemble at least one of my Civil War tribute blocks, because I want it done. I cannot wait. I absolutely love it, and I just cannot wait to see all of them together. Just like a dream come true. So, and I do get questions about that one, asking if the pattern is still available. I don't believe so. It came out in 2010, 2011 as a block of the month. I know every once in a while you can pick up a kit on the secondary market, but I've never seen a pattern available. So, which is unfortunate, but it was a block of the month, and it was meant to be celebrated with the 150th anniversary of the Civil War. And from what I kind of know about the entire series, there was Civil War tribute, Civil War medleys, I think generals, or Civil War generals, and then Civil War ladies, I think was how it went, and Civil War journals. I think there was 5 of them all together, but Civil War tribute was the first one, and they were all amazing. Well, guys, I feel like I've yacked your ears off enough, and it is time for me to go and start uploading these videos so I can go edit them later. I feel like the video quality is much, much better. I was kind of watching to see if I could see any of those same like fluctuations from light to dark, and I didn't really see any. So I feel like changing it to the 4K was a much better option, and I wish I would have known that 2 videos ago. I also noticed that all of the blues are very blue, so that's kind of cool. Because all I see when I look is I see this block here, this here, this one here, and then this one. They just sort of pop out at me, and it's kind of distracting. Anyway, so the plan basically is to work on everything I've shown cross-stitching, quilting-wise in this video. And I will be back in 2 weeks, which puts me into August. And I will have a 21-year-old kid in my next video. Allison turns 21 next Saturday, which is just crazy pants. I cannot believe I have a kid that is 21 years old. It just does not seem possible. So we will be celebrating her birthday next Saturday. But other than that, it'll pretty much be business as usual. So I'll just continue working on everything I've shown, and I will have that to show in my next video. So I hope you guys stay well and you get lots of stitching done. I hope you stay nice and cool where you are. And if you are down in the flooded areas of Kentucky, I hope you are safe. I definitely know that from everything I've read, and then a story Brian told me today, it definitely sounds like it was a very scary experience. So I hope you are doing well. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave them down below, and I will do my best to either answer them directly, or I can also answer them in my next video. It'll just kind of depend how things go. Sometimes I get asked the same question a bunch of times and I'm like, I better just answer that in my video. And then other times I can just answer them directly. So, but yeah, if you have any questions, please feel free to leave them down below. I will be back in 2 weeks, and if you would like to see what I'm up to in between my videos, you can follow me on Instagram. I am Pumpkin Hollow Quilts, or I do have a Facebook page, which is called Pumpkin Hollow Quilting, and I will put all that information down below. I thank you so very, very much for spending a little bit of your day with me today, and I hope to see you all again soon. Bye-bye.